and welcome to my film review of The Banshees of Inisherin. And I have to say, like a lot of people, not been out to see many movies at the theatre. I have seen a few, but it was so nice to be back in the cinema and watching it on the big screen. And I have to say, I was really, really impressed with The Banshees of Inisherin. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well in the comment box at the end, because it's really nice to know what other people thought of the films. Went to see it at a little independent near to my home, and it was really nice just to watch and absorb it. And I didn't know much about it at all, other than that it was set in a fictional town off the coast of Ireland, a remote island. And I knew that very talented actors Colin, Farrell and Gleeson were in it. And of course, they starred together in Bruges. That's another of Martin McDonagh's creations. And of course, he's well known for Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is one of my favourite films of all time. With the wonderful Frances McDormand, it was nominated for a lot of Oscars, and if you haven't seen it, do check it out because it's a great film. Similarly to Three Billboards, it's got that mix of comedic, very funny at times, and also very sad, and it really does move into quite dark territories at times. I'm actually going to go back and check out In Bruges and see what it's like, because it's been nice to see the two of them working together. They had a great chemistry, undoubtedly. The film hooks you in straight away. There's not lots of time where you just sort of getting bored. It's straight into the action and the centre of the story. And what's really interesting is it's set around two very, very good friends, drinking buddies, essential really on an island where there's not much to do. And you can imagine that they get a lot of source of comfort and camaraderie with the friends that they've got in this pub. And it starts, and Brendan Gleeson's character Colin decides that he just doesn't want to be friends anymore with Pedrick, played by Colin Farrell. And it's kind of weird really, because for men sort of in their 60s, it's an unusual concept really, and it's also a theme that's not really explored even throughout it. So at the end I was expecting some sort of revelation, I guess, and that never really comes as such. But it sort of unpicks as the film goes on. And it doesn't matter that you never see them actually friends. You never see them drinking together. You never see the good times. There's no flashbacks, which is something rare, because all the films you tend to watch now, it's these flashbacks. And I like the fact it's all in real time. And I like the fact that you can imagine the relationship that two of them had, even though that you don't see any of that. And of course, Pedrick, Colin Farrell's character, he just can't accept that Colm doesn't want to be friends with him anymore. And he sort of carries on, what have I done wrong and all this. And what it is, I think, on a deeper level, is that Colm has just had a sort of epiphany type moment where he realises that he's not getting any younger, death could come calling any time, and he just feels that chattering away couple of hours at the pub every day is not the best use of his time. So he decides he's going to start writing some fiddle music. He's clearly a very talented fiddle player, and that's really nice to have that sort of Irish fiddle playing all through it in different parts as well. That was something I really enjoyed. He just decides that, his time can be better spent, really. But the sad thing is that for someone like Pedrick, a character with not much else in his life, he obviously got a lot of enjoyment from that couple of hours that they chatted every day. And I love conversation. To me, just talking and listening is, to me, a form of entertainment. I've always been like that, so I can totally sort of sympathise with the Pedrick character. Brendan Gleeson's character Colm, he threatens to cut off his fingers if he won't leave him alone. So he says, every time you come bothering me, I'm going to chop off one of my fingers. And I will give a bit of a spoiler here, so you might want to just skip off if you haven't seen it yet. But I do assume that most people who listen to film reviews have already gone out and seen it. So what happens is, you don't really think he's going to do it, but all of a sudden you hear this sort of pounding on the door, and it's one of his fingers that he's chopped off and thrown at the door. And it's quite unpleasant, and it's not what you're expecting either, because it's a sort of a normal drama, and then there's this sort of edge of, I suppose, sort of slightly horror graphic. And the sister is played absolutely wonderful. Siobhan, she's Pedrick's sister. She's played by Kerry Condon very well indeed. She really adds a new dimension to the film. And then when she decides she's going to leave and go to live on the mainland, it's just another abandonment really in Pedrick's life, which is very, very sad. He does seek some solace with Dominic, again, terrifically played character, and a strong character as well, despite the fact he's playing the sort of simple simple type of character, maybe someone, I suppose, with some mild learning difficulties or something like that, who's been treated very, very badly by his father, physically abused and just not treated well at all. And he brings a really nice flavour to the film and does allow for some depth in the characters with Pedrick because of not being able to reach out to his former friend. And then basically it just takes a much darker turn until he's basically chopped off all of his fingers. I won't spoil the ending if you haven't seen it, but it does leave you, it's definitely a film that stays with you, and that's what a film should do. I've watched so many films that are so tedious or they're so much like other films. This one is very, very unique, and I really like that fact, and it's one that I will never forget. I can promise you that. I don't think I'd ever want to see it again because I don't think it's the kind of film you'd necessarily need to see again, but it was a film that I've thought about a lot since I saw it a few days ago. It's actually set at the backdrop of the Irish Civil War. I tried to find out what that was all about. It's pretty complex. It's set in 1923. The war was just under a year, running from June 1922 to May 2023. You can look into that if you're interested. Basically, it arose because of those that were in favour of the Anglo-Irish Treaty and those that were opposed to it. It was all to do with the 1916 uprising and what happened after that. So it's very, very interested Irish politics if you want to go and have some more of a look at that. For me, I think the film is very much about division. And with the division of the Civil War, which you don't get much mention to, just like I say, it's just a backdrop. But then obviously the division within the characters and the fact that they can't resolve their friendship. And by the end, it's disintegrated so much that there really is no way back for them. And I think it's quite interesting because there's a war on that level as well. We've also got another character who's really creepy, character of Mrs. McCormack, and I think she's supposed to represent sort of the Grim Reaper or death. So yeah, there's a lot of layers to this film. I really, really liked it. I think it's a very deep film, desperately sad at times, very, very funny at others, and I think it's well worth seeing, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.